Hello my friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a day of fixing just random little problems with the Type R. Hopefully this goes smoothly. So in the last video we found out that we need a couple things on the car for the parking brake to work. Now the parking brake isn't absolutely necessary on something like this, but I mean, I'm lying, it is. I really want the parking brake to work. So we needed the factory ECU for the parking brake to work. Don't know why, don't ask, I don't know, that's just what the car wanted. And then we need all the ABS sensors for the parking brake to work as well. Now the problem is when we go drive the car, we are having ABS sensor issues. So if we look on the Autel, our left front is reading fine, our right front is not reading, and both rears are not reading. I'm guessing it's probably a little wiring issue with the right front. The rears are a different story, and I'll show you guys why. I think the first thing I want to tackle is getting the right front to work and to read. Otherwise, if we do not get these ABS sensors working properly, every time we want to apply the parking brake, then we're going to have to bring the Autel with us, clear the codes of the ABS system, and apply the parking brake, which of course that is nonsense. I've said in the past I don't really care to have ABS on the car, but being that we're going through and fixing all the issues, I might as well get all the ABS issues worked out on this thing as well. I do gotta say though, it is super cool seeing this thing up in the air, all four wheels spinning, pretty freaking cool. Alright, so I checked all the wiring, and I don't think it's a wiring issue because you guys can see right front it'll randomly read. Watch this. 8 there, 8 there. So I don't think it's a wiring issue. I think it's and it's not a sensor. I swapped front and rear, I swapped driver and passenger sensors. That didn't change anything. I'm pretty sure what's causing our issues is the powder on the CV hub is interfering with the signal, or the contact I should say. It is a little weird how it's not doing it on the driver's side, and on the passenger side it is. I think that is most likely the issue because when I pulled the sensor out, it was full of stuff and now it reads intermittently. I'm hoping that's the problem. I hope it's not a wiring issue. Alright, so I've narrowed it down. It is not wiring related, it is something in the hub related. And the reason I know that is because I have a harness that runs from the plug-in for the ABS sensor on the passenger side over to the driver's side hub, and it is reading completely fine. So I know, thankfully it's not wiring, and it is something in the hub. I've already swapped the reluctor. I know it's not a sensor, and I don't know what else it could be. It's got to be the spacing on that reluctor, which I've messed with a lot. Back, forth, tight, loose, make sure it's on 100% straight. Just keeps getting weird readings, and I'll figure it out. I'm stoked right now it is not wiring. I decided to pull apart the driver's side as well to see if there's any visual differences, and lo and behold, there is. So you guys can see what that looks like there. We have the wheel bearing and the seal. Ring on this side is powder coated as well, so clearly that was not the problem. And on this side you can see the wheel bearing with no seal. So for some reason, and please, if you know, explain in the comment section below, but the wheel bearing not having a seal on it is interfering with the ABS sensor. I'm glad I figured it out. The old me would have torn this whole car apart, just assumed it was something in the wiring harness when clearly it's not. So I got a wheel bearing on the way, that'll be here tomorrow. Now we can move on to the rear. The rear is gonna be quite a bit more tricky because we're gonna have to like do some modification stuff because obviously this car stock does not have CV axles, and it would go off the factory wheel bearing. So we got to figure that out. That might be difficult. So my first goal with the rear was to understand how it worked from the factory. So what I did, I pulled it all apart, took out the hubs that we run for the all drive system, put the factory hubs back in with the ABS sensor, confirmed it works. As you can see right here, rear wheel speed, I'm cooking at 14 kilometers per hour. It's pretty odd how it works though. Let me pull this thing off real quick and show you guys, because it is going off of nothing that really moves. I know that doesn't make sense, but let me show you what I mean. So here we have our ABS sensor. It sits in the hub like that, or in the knuckle like that. And when you spin the hub, you can see nothing on this side actually spins. But what does spin, I went ahead and pulled off the little bearing seal thing, and you can see underneath that dust shield, it must be going off of, I'm guessing, this little part of the hub right here. So I'm hoping we can get something similar set up with the all-wheel drive hubs that we are running, which are newer CRV hubs. I went ahead and made some quick measurements, but tedious measurements. There's a exactly 5 millimeter difference in height from where the hub mounts onto the knuckle. So the CRV hub, which is the all-wheel drive hub, of course, it sticks up 5 more millimeters than the Type R hub that we have installed right now. Hypothetically speaking, and hopefully this works in a real world environment, if we have a machine shop take this hole and machine it down 5 millimeters, I can take care of the rest. I can smooth this out for clearance for the ABS. I can go ahead and tap another hole. But if we just move this down 5 millimeters to accompany the 5 mil difference, we should have working rear ABS sensors. Now, of course, that is hypothetically speaking, and in a real world environment, it may not work like I'm thinking, but I think it should work. I hope. Cross your fingers, because if it's that easy, I'll be happy. So the first thing I'm doing is relocating this hole 5 millimeters up, and then we need to shave a little bit of this material down here because the ABS sensor, the whole thing's moving up 5 mil. And then I'm gonna Dremel. I was gonna have a machine shop do this, but I like to do everything myself. So I'm just gonna Dremel this hole, slot it down 5 mil, and technically we should be good. Most definitely not the nicest work in the world, but guess what? It's all hidden and it fits. It looks like the clearance is proper. I got to mod out one more knuckle, throw it back together, and see if these guys are going to read. Sure hope they do. Before she goes all the way back together, I'm just going to do a quickie. Plug in the ABS sensor, spin the hub just by hand. See if she will pick up a reading. All right, so left rear, 10, 12. See how fast I can go. 20, 26. Somehow it works. Now let's hope the other side works. I tried to space about the exact amount that it was factory, but of course, with my 6 selection of tools, it was a little bit difficult. There we go. Right rear, 12, 16, 15, 18. We're good to go. Let's go ahead and slop together the complete rear end, and then we got to knock out the front wheel bearing. Unfortunately, the auto parts store sold us the wrong bearing and they do not have the correct bearing in stock. Now the problem is this thing has to go back together regardless, with or without a new bearing, because I am taking this thing to Formula Drift Seattle. We're gonna have the booth out there this weekend and this car's supposed to make it. So let's put it back together with the old non-working bearing and move on. Look what I just figured out. So this is what I thought was the seal off of the bearing. This thing right here is magnetic. So what I was looking at earlier and adjusting earlier, this right here, I guess it would not be the ring that the ABS goes off of. I don't know if this is just like a dust shield or something. I'm pretty sure this is set up just like the rear where the ABS goes off this. This thing is magnetic. It's crazy. It looks like a seal. Maybe it is a seal, and I mean, it is a seal. It's stretchy, but it's magnetic, just a little bit. Pretty wild. Car's all back together. I am putting new wheels on it. I like the TEs, but I think this thing needs some 19-inch rims. So let's slap on some 19s. Before I do that, I decided I should probably get this rear diff pinion leak figured out. We replaced the seal yesterday and drove it a little bit and it started leaking again, and I figured out why. I pulled off the flange and this flange is pretty pitted up, so I can see why it keeps leaking a little bit. There's something called a speedy sleeve, or it's a repair sleeve. It's a very, very, very thin sleeve that you put over the flange, the sealing surface right here. I've never used them before. I just found out about it. I'm gonna head in and see if I can find one, and hopefully that takes care of our issue, because I cannot find this flange separately, and a replacement rear diff is like $2,000, I think is what I paid for that thing. Here is what the sleeve looks like. This thing is super, super thin, so you just use the same seal. I'm gonna apply just a touch of RTV so it seals the sleeve to the shaft, if that makes sense. There's a pretty nice groove in this thing as well. It might be what's leaking. Either that or the pitting. Now we just tap her on. And just like that, we have a brand new sealing surface for the seal. Let's slap her on the car. I'll throw it up in the air, slap her in gear, and spin the drive line and make sure this thing don't spray oil like it used to. As we have the drive line spinning, making sure that thing don't leak anymore, I'm making sure the rear ABS sensors are reading, and as you can see, they are. The right one's spinning way faster than the left. But yeah. Rears are reading fine, front left's reading fine. Front right will be good to go as soon as we get that bearing swapped out, which makes me excited. Let's take a look at this oil leak. Nothing yet. Should be good. So I've been keeping these guys around. These are off of Bobby's Hawkeye. I almost said Hawkeye. Bobby's STI. I think I'm gonna like them on the Type R a lot just because they kind of resemble the factory FK8 wheel, but instead of a 20, it is a 19, so you can run a little bit more tire. If I do end up liking them, I'll probably step up a tire size, but if we don't, we always got the good old TEs that probably should be repowder coated. These things may be a little too aggressive for the Type R body. They're 18, what are they, 18 or 19 by 10 with a 15 mil offset. Let's get her on the ground and see what it looks like. Well, just like I expected, that is very, very clearly a no-go, unless we want to run a ton of camber, which I am completely against on this car. Look at that. I must say though, this wheel on this car would look very, very nice. I do think this thing does need 18s eventually, but we don't have any other 18s laying around. Gonna hold off on putting those on. I'm gonna repowder coat those guys a different color. Comment below what color do you think I should do. I really wanted to do bronze, but being that I'm gonna powder them tomorrow and we don't have bronze here, I'm gonna have to do a different color. Thinking white, let me know. I'm a big fan of OEM like inner fenders and like stuff underneath the car. I hope these panels still fit with everything that we had to modify. We're gonna have to do a bit of trimming back here, and I'm not sure if I want it covering the beautiful fuel cells either. Let me do some finagling, see what I wanna do. Here's what I ended up with for the little underboard. I had to make some cuts and trimming for the hangers and for the exhaust. Trimmed it right here. Half the tanks are covered, the other half is not. I like it, I love it, turned out sick. This car has yet to receive its bath from all of the work over the months, and I'm probably gonna clay it as well, so it's disgusting. It's got a little bit of clear overspray from when we sprayed the bay, because that clear sat in the booth for 40 years. So I'm hoping all that will clay off. If it doesn't, this car's gonna get a polish anyway. But before I polish it, of course, I want to repaint that door that got destroyed. Yeah, that's a bit aggressive on the wheel specs. Rear's not bad, but the front, sus. Well, shit, I got her all cleaned up. It looks so good on these wheels. I may do some dickering tomorrow, see how much camber would actually be needed to get them to fit. If they don't fit, not a big deal. I might just honestly order these exact wheels in a less, or I guess more of an offset. These are 15. If we did like a 35 mil offset, they'd be a perfect fit. This front wheel has a little bit of camber on it compared to the other one. You can see if we put a touch more, I think it's at 2 degrees. If we went to like 4 degrees, it'd fit. I'm definitely not trying to have a camber car out of this thing, but damn, these look good. Gonna wrap up the video right here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, this thing will be at Formula Drift in Seattle, along with the Vossen Apparel booth, and myself and Bobby and a couple other people will be there with us as well. Hope to see you guys there. Come out, say what's up, and check out the world's first K24 all-wheel drive Type R.